Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Talking Heads here on USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and thank you so much for following, for watching. Please do subscribe to our channels. If you are unable to see the graphic, our two YouTube channels are USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. We're streaming to about 12 platforms right now, and later we will become a podcast on the podcast platforms. So today's topic is common sense. We've all heard common sense. People will say, it's just common sense, or ask, where is the common sense? So I wanted to really explore this episode to talk about whether common sense is truly disappearing or whether our world is in such a way that practical judgment is more difficult to apply. So what does common sense actually mean? Well, I'm going to read a definition, so let me go over and get it for you. Okay, common sense is a sound, practical judgment about everyday matters based on experience, observation, and basic reasoning rather than specialized expertise. It's the ability to look at a situation, understand what is reasonable, and make a decision that aligns with reality. Common sense is not tied to education level or professional status. Highly educated people can still make decisions that lack practical judgment. So you may have also heard the expression, he has street smarts or she has street smarts. And I always thought this was an interesting way of putting things. And it's basically common sense in some way, that a person who is down to earth or who is walking in the streets among the people, that's my take on it, is able to see things from a different perspective than someone who is potentially in an ivory tower looking at things in a different way. And so this show is not about judgment. It's all about education and awareness. That's why we have all of our TV shows, because we want to help bring knowledge and education and give you the opportunity to determine what works for you, what makes sense. So I just mentioned the word knowledge. What is the difference between knowledge and judgment? And I talk a lot about judgment. I have my book here, Holy But Harmful, The Silent Sin of Judgment. And I wrote this book to really bring awareness to the fact that we're all guilty of judgment. And so by writing the book and also the subsequent workshops and the workbook, my goal is to bring awareness of when we're judging other people. So we could even be judging other people about having common sense, and we could be labeling people because we don't think they have common sense. So let's really get into it. Knowledge and common sense are not the same thing. Knowledge is information that you learn through study or through research. And judgment is the ability to apply information in a practical way. So many people today have access to unlimited information. So with all of the various AI platforms and all of the search engines that are out there, we all have access to unlimited information. But that doesn't mean that the information that we get is correct or even applicable to our situation, or that's going to guarantee wise decision making. So when judgment is missing, and by the way, we're talking about two kinds of judgment, which we'll get into a little bit more, then knowledge can only lead to poor choices. So, judgment, I think we need to just go over this for a moment. Judgment in a negative sense is when we are evaluating someone else's behavior or we're labeling someone else. And in this book, Holy but Harmful, I have 100 statements that are completely judgmental. And I'll find a few of them here. Okay. He never went to college, so he can't be that smart. He still hasn't proposed. He must not take her that seriously. He's too old to understand technology. And he's successful, but you know it won't last. Okay, these are all judgmental statements. And so where does that differ or align with when we're talking about common sense? Well, when we have information, we have to be able to process it and make a judgment as to whether or not it's applicable to our situation. That's very different than judging someone else, than labeling someone else, than putting someone else down. So I want to just clarify that. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. And if we have time, we will definitely go over to the chat and see what's going on there. What's going on for a lot of people in this world is information overload. If you are someone who is constantly scrolling on your phone, you're getting a lot of information, and this information may affect the way that you're thinking. You may see something on social media because you see it over and over and over again, or maybe an influencer is talking about it. You might think that that is the right decision or the right choice or the right environment for you. When we're constantly exposed to other people's opinions and commentary and news, this is a nonstop flow of information that really can overwhelm our brains. And it makes it much harder to pause and analyze and think critically. And what this reminds me of, if any of you have seen any of these reality TV shows, I don't watch network television, but I do watch streaming platforms, and I love to watch reality TV shows. And part of the reason that I like to watch them is because I like to watch how people process information. And one of the shows I watched recently is called Alone. And there's a group of people who are taken to the Arctic Circle. I think it's from 2024. And they have to fend on their own. They're literally isolated and they don't know whether or not anybody else has dropped out. But the last person remaining earns $500,000. And so what they have to go through in this environment that is brutal, where they could literally be killed by wildlife, or they could starve to death, or they could get food poisoning, et cetera, et cetera. And what comes out in each and every time is the fact that they're alone, they're able to process information. And many times people will have breakthroughs about their own life, about things that they weren't even aware of because they don't have the distractions. They don't have the judgment. They don't have other people's opinions. And so a lot of it might seem like common sense, but to them, it's a revelation because their minds were so cluttered before. They weren't able to actually see their own life very clearly. And that can happen to any of us. With everything going on in the world, sometimes we just have too much information. Now, with communication today, it spreads very quickly. So if you put something out on social media, people don't even bother to determine whether or not it's valid or whether it's accurate. And there are people out there who will put anything that they possibly want without doing any research. Or maybe somebody you know has put something on social media and you'll just chime in. You'll put like, comment, emojis, but you haven't done any research. And so now, instead of being thoughtful in what we're putting out there, it's, oh, how quickly can I put something out there? How quickly can I respond to what someone else put out there so I can be in alignment with them? And we see people who have huge numbers of followings, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I want to be one of their followers. Well, why? I mean, what does your common sense tell you? Doesn't it tell you that your emotions that you have can't be replaced by just being one of many? That you are basically selling yourself out in a way instead of doing the work to say, is this person somebody I want to be aligned with? And so for me, it's not about the speed of doing things, it's about the thoughtfulness in what it is that we're doing. Now, I want to give some everyday examples of where common sense is really missing. Have you ever been part of poor customer service decisions where it just doesn't make any sense? The obvious answer is to cater to the customer or listen to what the customer has. Or I'll give an example that we see many times today on social media is someone is traveling, they're on a plane, and they're doing something that there are actually rules that state they can't do it. And this is the one I saw most recently. A woman had her headphones on, and apparently I wasn't there, but apparently she was asked to take the headphones off because there's some kind of policy that you're not supposed to be wearing headphones. Actually, it was the opposite. I'm sorry. She was supposed to be wearing headphones and didn't have headphones. And then I think she did something when they were doing the safety announcements. So the common sense thing to do would have been listen to the flight attendant, what the flight attendant asked this person to do. But instead of doing that, the person decided to get all emotional and escalate it and take it to a whole other level, which meant turning the plane around, and the person was subsequently arrested. And it's almost like it's in vogue for people to do things that cause some kind of disruption on social media so that everyone can go, oh, look at that person. But is that common sense? Does it make sense for you to invite all kinds of problems into your life when you don't need them? This is where it really gets me why I wanted to do this episode. Like, what are people actually thinking? Why are you being part of damaging reputations or causing some kind of conflict or choosing to lead your life with hatred? You know, I'm a public figure. I do a lot of shows, and if I'm not doing shows, my team's doing them, and sometimes I'm producing them, sometimes other people are. And I am literally astounded by the number of negative comments that people place that have nothing to do with the show. It's about politics. It's about the Bible. It's about voodoo. It's about all kinds of things that have nothing to do with the show. And then there are people who personally want to attack me. They don't even know me, but they want to say something about my face or my teeth or what I'm wearing. And I think to myself, what kind of common sense are you using? Because you are aligned with whatever your account name is. And you're putting this negativity and hatred out in the public domain that can be tracked back to you. And so, what are you saying about yourself? You're saying that you are a person filled with hatred, and that instead of helping someone else, instead of lending a hand and being somebody who's supportive, that you're negative. And so, I know I wouldn't want to align myself with you, and you're hiding behind some kind of name that you have instead of your true name. That to me doesn't make common sense. And so, in basic situations, when people don't have common sense, they're losing the opportunity to grow because they're so grounded in fundamental mishaps that they're not able to grow as a person. So I feel that we as leaders have the ability to influence whether or not common sense is practiced in organizations. And what I mean by that is I've worked in companies where I was really empowered to make decisions, where I didn't have to go up the chain of command to get every single thing approved. And basically, I was evaluated, what was I doing with my common sense in the decision making? And if I was making errors, then somebody would step in and have a conversation about it. But for the most part, I got to run my show the way I wanted to, the way I'm running this show, for example, because I'm able to use common sense. Now, if you find that you are overwhelmed with information, if you find that you are feeling these feelings of hatred and anger, reach out and get help from someone. You can get help. If you truly want to live a life of peace, if you truly want to be reliant on yourself to make decisions, you can do it. I just mentioned this reality TV show, which has been on for years, and there's others, but it's called Alone. And people make a decision that they will go out into the wilderness. They're allowed to bring 10 things with them. And they have to find their own food. They have to build their own shelter. They have to use their common sense plus the skills that they've developed over time to continue to live one day after another. And what usually breaks them is their mind, or the fact that their body is breaking down because it doesn't have the food, the nutrients that it needs. Maybe it's food poisoning. You ate something. One gentleman just had a fish that he'd been storing, and it turns out that a mouse was eating it and it was defecating inside of it. And he'd been eating the fish and he didn't know it was defecation. He thought that it was dirt. So that's a situation where maybe common sense would have said, if he thought about it, but because he'd been out in the wilderness, I think for 45 days, he wasn't thinking properly. And so that's what happens to us on a different level as humans. We have so much information overload coming in that we don't stop and smell the roses. We don't take a pause. We don't say, you know what, I need some time to think things through, because we're in such a rush to make decisions. Well, who said you had to rush? When we listen to our intuition, many times we're listening to common sense. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right. And again, I've said this before, we can't control what other people do, but we certainly can control how we react or how we don't react. And that brings me back to this book, which I wasn't even going to talk about today, but it's a really good segue. When you feel like you're being judged by someone, you can use your common sense or your intuition, which would tell you to disengage, do not engage, do not participate. And what this means is you set a boundary. And when you set a boundary, you say to yourself, I am not going to go where this conversation is going. I'm not going to let any negativity impact me. Because the negativity that we express is a reflection of ourselves. It's a reflection of us being unhappy about something in our life. Maybe we don't even realize it. So our goal is not to judge someone else, because we don't walk in anyone else's path. But we can choose to use our common sense about how we're going to show up. And of course, I'll give an example. Let's say you and a family member, you and a friend, you and a colleague, you have different perspectives on something. And somehow the two of you end up in a conversation about this subject that you have completely different perspectives on. And the other person is really being aggressive with how they feel about it. And they're insulting you, and they're saying, you need to come around, you need to look at it in a different way. Right there, you have a choice. The choice is you can decide you're going to go head to head with the person. You are going to literally duke it out with them, whether it's physically or whether it's through your words. Or you can say, you know what? This is a no-win situation. Because even if I feel that I'm so convicted in my stance, this person's not going to see it. They're not open. They're not curious. So what are you actually going to gain? Imagine if you decided you were going to confront every person that you met who had a different thought process than you. You know what would end up happening? You will be completely and totally exhausted. That's common sense. So you can have your own opinion about things, and you don't have to share it with anyone. And when someone shares a different perspective, you can be open and curious, just listening, or you can choose to disengage. It's up to you. But if you're not using your common sense, you may think that you're going to one up the other person by going back and forth, back and forth. And I promise you, nothing positive is going to happen. Nothing. Probably a relationship is going to be irreparably damaged. And maybe that's a good thing. I don't really know. So when it comes to using common sense, it's a basic skill set that I believe we all possess. It doesn't matter how much education you have. It doesn't matter what schools you went to or didn't go to. It doesn't matter what jobs you had or didn't have. It's a feeling inside. If I decide to pick up this book and smash it into my head several times, Does that make common sense? No. Do I have mental issues? No, I don't. So that doesn't make any sense. Why would I do that? In a situation like that, that could be a cry for help. But in everyday situations, you get to make a choice about how you are going to show up. And if it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. And if you're following your common sense and someone is questioning it, that's on them. As I mentioned before, we can't do anything about what someone else thinks. We don't have the capacity. It's just enough for us to figure out what decisions we're making. So, when you are a leader and you are someone who is rushing decisions, you are someone who is ignoring feedback, or you are just discouraging any kind of open dialogue, this can create an environment where poor judgment is the norm. Leaders that I appreciate, who I appreciate, they are leaders who listen very carefully. They encourage thoughtful conversations. And before they take action, they pause and they think. This pause causes upsetment for many people. Many people don't know how to deal with the pause or I need time to digest this. I want to think about it. It makes people uncomfortable. Sometimes people will say, well, that's an excuse. It's not an excuse. It's actually healthy. If you're not sure what it is you want to do in a situation, if nothing's coming up with for you right away based on your intuition, you need to take a step back and think about it. And if someone else is uncomfortable about that, that's on them. You don't have to bog yourself down or worry about that. That is on them. Okay, so let's say that in the course of your day, you are finding that you are continuously at odds with other people. I want you to ask yourself, what is your role in this? And to me, it makes common sense when I see people in relationships and they're constantly arguing, or this one, people get into this pattern and they don't even see it. And I just was watching oh my gosh, I forget what it was. It was a reality TV show, but it was a couple. And she kept cutting him off and she kept giving him cheap shots. And I don't even know that he realized it or recognized it because she's probably been doing it for such a long time. But the point is, common sense tells you that if you keep insulting someone, if you keep putting someone else down, at some point, something's going to happen. And what that is, I can't tell you because in every situation, it's going to be different. But common sense tells us to lift other people up, to appreciate other people. It's okay to call someone out on something, as long as you explain it in a way that is conducive to getting something positive, some positive information. But if your goal, whether you're a leader or not, is to just insult someone over and over again, believe me, it's going to come back. It's going to be a boomerang that will come back to you at some point in time, because at some point, common sense will kick in and someone will realize that they don't need to be kicked in the teeth every day. So think about your own behavior. Think about where you are in life, what it is you're accomplishing, what it is that you want to accomplish, and what are the signs, the obvious, clear signs that you're missing. What is standing in your way that you could do something about? What are the obstacles that you use as an excuse? And of course, I love giving examples. People will say, I was going to call you, but I was really busy. Now, if you've seen any of my other episodes, I talk about busy versus productive. As soon as I hear the word busy, I don't do it on purpose, but to me, busy is a 4-letter word. My common sense tells me that if you really wanted a relationship with me, if you really wanted to have a good connection with me, you would make time. When someone says over and over again, I'm just so busy, I have so much going on. Who doesn't? We can all be as busy as we want to be, but are you being productive? And while you're being productive, are you cultivating the relationships that you want to cultivate along the way? So think again about how you're showing up and use your own common sense. Instead of making excuses, you could just be honest in a nice way. Unfortunately, right now, I don't have time to put into this relationship what you really deserve. That's a fair statement. Somebody can accept that and appreciate that. Let's say you're in a long-term marriage or relationship, and it just, your common sense, your gut tells you it's not working. It doesn't feel good, but yet you're afraid. You're afraid to go out on your own. You're afraid to split the money and the house and the kid, whatever it might be. But your common sense, your intuition is telling you this is what you need to do. At some point, if the other person has been in the dark because they're so busy, they will realize that you are not acting the way that you used to act. You're acting in a different way. And they might appreciate the honesty. You know what? We've both grown, and I really respect the person you are. I feel like I'm on a different journey right now. That doesn't mean the other person's going to like it. Doesn't mean they're going to go, congratulations, that's phenomenal. But common sense tells you it's not where you want to be. Now, in your life, if you feel that there are still things you want to accomplish, what are you doing to make it happen? What is your common sense telling you about the things that are holding you back? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Are you with people who don't believe in you? Are you with people who don't even ask about you? I've heard this so many times and I've experienced myself. One-way relationships where it's a complete dumping of information about the person, and then there's no reciprocity. There's no, oh, how are you doing? What's going on with you? How can I help you? It's just all about them. Well, common sense will tell you it doesn't feel good. So you can choose to not participate. You don't have to make a big thing of it. You don't have to tell the person, listen, you're thoughtless, you're selfish, because I don't believe in using names. I think when you label someone with a name, there's no information that's coming from that. You can share your feelings, but by labeling and name calling, all you're doing is putting the person on the defensive. So think about what is really resonating for you and what isn't. And we don't always have to be researching. We don't always have to be looking to people to lead us as role models. We know what feels right in our body and what doesn't. We know what makes sense and what doesn't. So I'm asking you to tap into your common sense and start using it more. Common sense develops as we have lived experiences in life. When we start as people reflecting on our mistakes or missed opportunities, we can learn from those past situations and yet remain open to new perspectives. And that's why I love curiosity. I love watching little kids. They're so curious. They're just filled with energy and full of life until someone tells them, you're not good at that. You need to stop talking. You need to sit in the corner. You. Someone tells them something, and that curiosity is no longer. And then they're an adult. They're just pushed into adulthood. I think we should always be curious. I am curious about how other people think, even when it's not something I believe in. And as you know, I am a TV show host, but I also own USA Global TV and Radio. We've got over 60 shows. We're in 3 different languages. There are plenty of people who have been guests on our shows that I may not have agreed with what they had to say. But guess what? Who cares? They don't know. Nobody knows. I don't share what my opinions are. I just share my experience to help you find peace. That is my goal, to help each and every person find inner peace. Because as much as people who are out there filled with hatred and anger claim that they love the drama, our bodies don't love the drama. Our minds don't love the drama. At some point, your body will show up retaliating and saying to you, you know what? It was all that drama. It was all that high impact energy in a negative way. All of that hatred and anger that you have right now, it's not serving you. What would serve you is finding a way to help somebody else. Finding a way to take whatever is going on inside of you and channel it into something productive. So that at the end of the day, instead of you sitting there stewing on your couch about how much you hate everything and everyone and the world's coming to an end, thinking about what you've done to make the world a better place. So imagine if each and every one of us did that every day, instead of the late night talk shows, Saturday Night Live, all these parodies where people have nothing better to do with their time than just insult people. I'm not interested in that. I'm a peace ambassador, and I'm interested in helping each and every one of you find inner peace, because life is not easy. But if you were to ask any of the people who already left this earth, your parents, your grandparents, et cetera, they would all tell you that there were times in their life when it seemed like the world was in crisis. None of us get out of it because we are continuously being asked to learn. So I'm asking you to use your common sense about how you spend your time. I'm asking you to reevaluate, what will your legacy be when you're no longer here? Will people say he was a great guy? Would people say she was filled with anger and hatred? I don't know about you, but I want to be remembered for being someone who did something to help someone else. Thank you for watching. That concludes our episode today of Talking Heads. If you would like to join us on a future episode, please go to our YouTube channels. We have two, USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Plus, as I mentioned, we are on 12 platforms right now, and we will also be distributed through some of our other chapters, like E360 TV. If you would like to, you can purchase a copy of my book, Mastering the Power of Elevated Listening. I have taught this as a course in London, in Zambia, as well as in the United States and in London. And of course, my book, Holy But Harmful, this is the silent sin of judgment. And it's not about religion per se. There is a lot of judgment in religion, which is kind of interesting because many times when we're broadcasting, people will quote the Bible. That's a judgment, by the way, because they're literally hiding behind something that someone else wrote. And so they're condemning people with words from the Bible. And yet they're not identifying who they are, but they are condemning. So I don't stand for that either. Also, I have a new book coming out. I am on the board of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. I have ulcerative colitis for 35 years. And I am going to be signing this book, My Tummy Hurts. It's a book for children to understand about belly aches and bathroom troubles. So this is a topic that is near and dear to me, having lived with this disease for most of my life and having been judged quite often because of the fact that I have ulcerative colitis. But if you've never had it, you have no idea what it's like, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. So that book is coming out soon. All right, as I mentioned, we're closing out, and we will be back with our next episode. Please do subscribe to our channels. Thank you again for watching.
Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? In a world quick to judge, one book dares to reveal the hidden cost of silence. Discover Holy But Harmful, The Silent Sin of Judgment, How Hidden Judgments Destroy Relationships and Damage Lives by Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. The Amazon #1 bestseller that's transforming the way we understand ourselves and the way we see others. Pick up the companion workbook to uncover your own hidden judgments. and learn how to break free from them. Available now on Amazon and at fine bookstores worldwide.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.